Everything in your life is a fucking manifestation. Everything. So, manifestation has gotten this reputation of being this woo-woo thing, this weird thing. I can manifest. What? Your entire life is a manifestation, you fucking mother. Right? Your entire life is a manifestation. So let me correct you on what the definition is. Manifestation means creation, right? It's a creation of something. You're creating, you're constantly manifesting, you're constantly creating with your thoughts and your actions, right? Now, it's interesting because there's so much controversy and also things that a lot of people don't even realize that their their beliefs are regarding, and of course this is tied in with religion, your spiritual beliefs, all those things. But I'm here to tell you, I mean, again, I should probably just make this into like a mini series and create a course on this because I could talk about this for hours, and there's so many people I want to educate. Like, I just want to educate you on it. If you've been confused about it, if you've been trying to learn more about it, I actually spoke to someone the other day about it, and it was great because he kind of understood some stuff, and I kind of explained things to him, and he was mind blown, right? So, manifestation, just consider this like a 101 crash course, just means what you're already doing, okay? You need to start thinking of yourself as someone who is always manifesting. Whether you realize it or not, you're always manifesting, bitch, right? You always are. You always are. You always are. So think of it as a synonymous term with, I'm always creating my life. I'm always living my life. Now, the problem that I see that comes into play for a lot of people is this concept of, I'm not the one creating my life, someone outside of me is, some power. And that's where the whole God, religion, source thing comes in. And this is a very personal topic for a lot of people, but for my ideal viewer, if you're anything like me, which is who I'm making this for, I'm not making this for fucking everyone, at least not yet. It comes down to you realizing that you are the creator of your reality or the co-creator of your reality, if that feels more comfortable to you. Because I know that God may be a big part of your life, the way you see God, the religion. And so I think that's what really trips people up with manifestation, because they think, well, I'm not the one deciding things, right? I pray to God and then God gives me things. But, here's the really weird thing about that, the screwy thing about that. There's so many things that you don't fucking pray about, but you still get them, don't you? I mean, have you actually thought about that? Right? There's so many actions you take throughout the day that you don't pray about. So a lot of times then people will say, oh, no, but that's because, I prayed for overall well-being. I prayed for overall this, overall that. Yeah. Okay. But you know what I'm talking about. It still doesn't make sense, right? There's so many things that you don't ask for that you still somehow create. They still somehow show up in your life. You still somehow get to experience that wellness, that well-being, that ease, that fun, that good thing that happens to you, right? How is that possible? So again, people will lean to, that's just God's blessings, that's God's favor. Again, great. If you want to believe that, good for you, right? I'm just here to tell you that even though God is still such a big part of my life, and I believe always will be, I love the word source, because I do believe that as I've done my own research on spirituality and manifestation, I do believe that there is a source. I think most people will agree on that. Now, you can call that source God, you can call that anyone else. So now some people, basically I'll divide this into two main schools of thoughts, because this will help you understand manifestation, okay? And of course, there's many more within that. There's probably infinite schools of thoughts, but these are the two main ones I'm seeing, right? Mostly. So there's the people who genuinely believe that you're the creator of your reality. So that there's source, and that you're extensions of source in this physical time-space reality. You decided to come here, right? And have this physical experience, this human experience, so you can experience more joy and freedom and expansion. Source is still infinitely expanding. Will always expand. That's what infinite means, right? So we are extensions of source, right? and all of us as individual beings, as consciousness here in these physical time-space realities, we're getting to create more and expand more, right? Create more from what was, right? That's infinite expansion. Because Source is wanting to infinitely expand, to infinitely realize who Source is, feel as many feelings as Source can feel, right? And so the part that we play in that is at some level we forget who we are, we choose to come here, and we have this beautiful human experience. Now, we have the power to disconnect from ourselves, right? So you can think of Source as one energy, right? When Source can split up so it can realize who it is. So it's the all that it is, like all the love, the abundance, all the goodness, right? And it can also experience the void of the all, right? The disconnect. So being able, excuse me, being able to hold both of those, the absence of everything, like the presence of everything and the absence of everything, right, is how you're able to then create, right? Because if you just live in a place where there's the presence of everything, right, then there's no expansion. There's nothing to create because there's no void. There's nothing missing. So then how do you infinitely expand, right? And I know these are complex topics, but stay with me here, right? I'm trying to explain it in a more simplified way. So let's say we have that. So then as humans, we come here, right, with the ability as extensions of that Source, right, the all that is, the love, the abundance, everything, with the ability to disconnect, right? Pinch ourselves off essentially from that ever-flowing well-being, the consciousness, the stream that we are here in this physical time-space reality. So there's lots of topics about how there's infinite realities that are coexisting. I do believe in that. There's there's topics about how some of us have decided what we wanted certain circumstances and things to look like as we would come in as humans so we could experience that, okay? And so those are some interesting concepts, right? But I think the main thing that I want you to get here, the main idea of the first school of thought is that, you know, we are extensions of God. God wants us to be here, Source, right? And so we're the creators of our reality. We get to create as much as we want. We get to create with our thoughts and feelings a heaven on earth or a hell on earth, right? Based on our mind. So the heaven and hell that religion talks about, this first school of thought is basically saying that the heaven and hell is here in this lifetime. And then after this, right, you'll go back to being pure positive energy. You'll realign with Source. You'll go back to God, which is what most religions say too, right? And then at that point, who knows what happens? Many people have different theories, right? Then you can reemerge back into like another time-space reality as another human. That's where the idea of reincarnation comes in. Or that you continue to be non-physical energy and enjoy what's happening here in these physical planes, right? Kind of, you know, experiencing more emotions and expansion through other humans and life forms. You may decide to sit out for a while, come back in later. You may decide to become a different form and experience something else. I mean, we're talking infinite here, right? I mean, our minds are so limited as humans here that we chose to be for a reason, so that we could focus on this reality. And that's, I think, one of the interesting things, because we think that God is above us and separate from us in this first school of thought. I'm sorry, in the second school of thought, people think that, right? The second school of thought is all about religion, right? Most of the monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, even Hinduism to a certain extent, although that's a little different, but I'll get to that. That's the second school of thought is all about some of the more common religion, popular religions in the world, right? So I'll get to that. So over there, it's all about God is separate from us. There's God and there's us, right? It's owner and slave, or and of course, there's lots of beautiful teachings in that too, right? About how God loves you more than anyone else, et cetera, et cetera. But there is this idea of, you know, separateness, right? It's not like you know, we are extensions of God. It's like there's God and there's us, right? And so that part is, I think, one of the biggest distinctions, because in this first school of thought, they're saying, I'm just going to call it 1 and 2 from now on, right? So in 1, they're basically saying that, you know, we are creators of our reality. And in 2, the furthest they will take it is we're co-creators of our own reality. And I feel like maybe not even that. Maybe they're not even going to say co-creators, because I think in the second school of thought, it's such a sin to think of yourself as a creator. It's such a sin to give yourself that power, right? It's such a sin to basically remotely consider yourself at any level to have the attributes that God has, because God is God, right? Untouchable. So those are some of the main differences. And as I was going through my own journey, you know, there were so many things I discovered that were just wild, which is why I recommend that you do your own research. You have YouTube, you have Google, you have ChatGPT, you have so many things. And of course, they're not always accurate. I'm not saying that they always are. There's a lot of BS there out there too. But I think if you really go down the rabbit hole, you'll have some amazing discoveries that will change your life forever. And I think studying history is very important. Just our own history in this physical time-space reality. Study the history of religion. You know, not just for the last few thousand years. Like, really study, like, when did humans first exist on the planet? What religion were they following then? What were their beliefs then? Right? It's because my thing, what really got me to eventually realize the truth for myself, which is more within the alignment with the first school of thought, the number one, is what about before all these modern religions existed? Were humans just doing nothing? So you're saying God just put humans on the planet for 300,000 years, 300,000 years, right? Where the modern Homo sapien existed. They were just doing nothing. And that's what really trips me up about, I think, modern religion, is that people just make shit up. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They're talking out of their ass. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, no, but that's justified because of this. And there were this many prophets, and there were this many this. It's like, what? What are you talking about? First of all, where's the proof and the evidence for that? These are all just stories. All of them. They're stories, right? And we choose to believe them because we're told to believe them, and we're told that we're going to be punished if we don't believe them. And so there's this fear about not believing them either. So much of modern day religion, and I keep saying modern day, I'm talking about some of the major religions here, is based on fear, right? A lot of it's based on fear. Now, some people may argue with me. But I feel like that's a big fucking part of it. Is don't do that, otherwise you will be punished. Stay away from this, otherwise you will be punished. Yet the same fucking hypocritical people who follow all of these religions, right, including myself at one point, you know, will do so many things where they're breaking rules all the time, right? Where they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, yet they're still living this fear-based life, and then they'll be quick to judge others as well, right? Because they're breaking the rules. So just some of my frustration I'm venting about this whole second school of thought, and some of the things that I really learned about it. Again, you know, my immediate family is very practicing. They're very religious people. It's a very big deal to them. So I'm not going to come on here and tell them to stop believing what they want to believe, to do what I want them to do. Why the fuck would I do that? That would be narcissistic of me, right? They should do what makes them feel happy. If that makes them feel aligned, good for them. This video isn't about shitting on people who have different beliefs than you. This video really is about teaching you what manifestation is, but really where like where the two schools of thoughts are regarding manifestation, right? So let me kind of come back to the original topic, right? So again, basic things, differences. Number two, we'll say you need God. Nothing can happen with God. You got to pray to God. We can't create shit. We're all dependent on God 100%. We're powerless. Number one says we are extensions of God. We're creators. We're mini gods in this physical time-space reality. We're here to create, right? We believe in a source, and let's have fun, right? Let's create heaven on earth. Number two believes heaven and hell exist after this lifetime, right? Number one believes, excuse me, woo! Just woke up, clearing that fucking throat. I know, guys, I know I was up my throat earlier. Just kidding. So number one school of thought, I forgot what I was saying. Number one school of thought was, I forgot exactly what I was saying, but I think it was along the lines of, oh yeah. So one of them, I may be a little off here, but one of them was about the prayer, right? Then the number one was, you know, oh yeah, we can create our own heaven on earth here, right? We're here to experience heaven on earth, and then after this lifetime, another heaven, and another heaven, another heaven, right? And we can create a hell on earth too, based on our thoughts and feelings, right? So those are kind of like the main breakdowns of number one and number two. And so I find it fascinating because, I think the reason why some people in number two don't like the concept of manifestation is because it's basically saying that you have the power to create what you want. Like I said, manifestation just means creation. But what they don't realize is the only thing differently that number two people are doing is that they are asking God to give them something, and they believe that God gives it to them. So basically there's you, there's God, right? And then there's what you receive from God. Whereas people on number one, it's you, and then you think or feel your way to it, and then you receive it. Because you believe God is already within you, you believe you're an extension of God, you believe you're a mini God here, right? So you can still thank the source that you come from, right? But you believe that you have direct power. That source, like you have that power from source, it's been given to you, you are an extension of that. I'd say that's the main difference. So, of course, I like to harmonize things. My goal here isn't to create division. My goal here isn't to, create differences. It's actually to create harmony. But a lot of times my frustration comes out in these videos too, because I think so many people are being misled and taught the wrong things, and that's where the frustration comes out. And so I'll be frustrated, right? I will. But my goal here is at the end of the day to create more harmony and understanding between both schools of thoughts. So essentially what I would say is if you're someone who's more religious and you're wanting to learn more about manifestation, just think of it as like right now, your main belief is, you're here, you pray for something to God, God gives it to you. Manifestation is just basically saying you're here, and by thinking and feeling it enough, you receive it. So if it helps you, you can still believe that God is the one that gives it to you. Like God gave you your mind, your brain, your thought, your ability to think and feel, right? So by basically using the tools that God has given you, you're able to create with your thoughts, right? So essentially, it's like if that kind of helps you think about manifestation in a more aligned way to what you've believed in the past, then do that, right? Do that. And for those of you who are in number one, that school of thought already, who aren't very religious, then of course, you've already known these things. But regardless, I'm glad I kind of touched up on that because I think that's like a topic that's not explained really well. And I don't think I did the best job explaining it here because I'm being mindful of time. I do think maybe I should just sit down and record for a few hours, maybe create mini lessons and modules, because this is a topic I'm really passionate about because it's something I've been learning for the last few years. And just life experiences I've had are fucking wild, man. Like as I've learned these concepts, So that's kind of the two schools of thoughts regarding manifestation. So now let's talk a little bit more about manifestation in general, right? So regardless, let's say that you're starting to believe it. Let's say that you're super religious in number two school of thought, but you still want to kind of try it out, test it out for yourself. So all you got to do, and this is what I did, because when I first started learning manifestation, I was still pretty religious, and I still believed in a lot of my obviously what I'd grown up with. And again, nothing wrong with that. You can believe that your whole life. That's awesome if you really want that for you, right? For yourself. But when I learned about manifestation, it was more about, imagining, pretending to be who you want to be. Imagining you have the life that you want, okay? So thinking as if, because your thoughts create your reality. I learned that your thoughts create your reality, and I was kind of mind blown because it's such a simple concept. Most of us will be like, yeah, that's common sense. But most of us don't believe that until we learn it because we think life is happening to us, And you're putting yourself in a powerless position when you do that, right? That's why I think the more powerful you can see yourself, again, if you're someone who's religious, if you can just see that God has given you all the power, that you've asked God for all the power, whatever helps you feel that way, you will start to have a much better life. You'll instantly feel better and you'll create the life that you want, which is the whole point, right? So when I first started learning about these concepts and I learned your thoughts create your reality, I was mind blown. Then the second part, and I started kind of applying that, and I saw the results. The second thing was thinking as if, right? So like really pretending, imagining what you are. So the thoughts create your reality I learned from Brooke Castillo, which I'm sure she learned from lots of other people. And then it was Joe Dispenza who talked about, she actually learned from Dispenza as well, the art of just pretending to be living your life now. Like think as if you already have the life you want, you are the person you want. When you do that, guess what? Your life will reflect that. right? You will create that life for yourself, aka you will manifest that reality. Right? Then Abraham Hicks came into my life, and Abraham Hicks, one of the, I'm gonna get emotional here, but it's like one of the best teachers. Of course, I don't agree with everything that they talk about. I think that's okay, right? You get different things from different teachers, but love most of their premises, right, and what they teach. And so from them, the main thing that I also learned was that, again, just kind of that, like, what you continue to focus on and think about is what you will create. That you are a co-creator in this reality, that you're a creator of your reality, that basically you have infinite powers, and you came into this human experience for a reason, and the primary reason for it was joy. That's it, right? Whatever, to feel good, right? You wanted to feel more heightened levels of emotion, and you wanted to expand and create more, right? And you wanted to experience more levels of freedom, right? So those are like the three main premises, three main purposes, right? And I love that, and I live by that now for the most part. And so that really got me, again, lining up with, thinking things and doing things where I feel more joy. And I'm telling you, I've been a pretty happy person throughout my life, but I've had some dips and lows too, where I've had some really depressive episodes, really states where I was kind of just low for a while. Again, because I wasn't living life the way I wanted to, right? There were some moments where it's like I've gone down that path thinking like those suicidal thoughts, thinking, why am I even here? I don't want to be here, right? And some of you can relate to that. And so we can have like really dark, low moments in our lives, right? And I think what Abraham Hicks did, and of course, like I said, I've overall, I've been a pretty positive, happy-go-lucky person because I choose to be, but I've also had some extreme dips in my life too. What Abraham Hicks really did is help me just realize that we're here for joy and like really find the joy, right? Like a lot of people wonder, like, are you like genuinely that happy like most of the time? I'm like, yeah, I really am, right? And I would say, generally speaking, in terms of happiness levels, I'm between a 7 or 10 most of my life now, right? Usually it's like a 9 or a 10. Some days it's 8 or a 9, and may dip down to a 7. Now, it doesn't mean that I may not dip down below that to a 2 or 3. Momentarily, it will. I'm human, right? I'm going to have the human experience. But I'd say on average, I'm about a 9 or a 10 or 8 or a 9, which I think is pretty fucking good. Most humans can't say that, which is why I want to put this content out there to help as many people as I can to feel what I feel, right? Because how you feel is really what matters. It's not the external circumstances. So anyway, I learned about these things from just the concept of focusing on feeling good. And the more you do that, you're basically aligning up with who you and I call Source, God. And then you'll basically receive all the abundance, all the things that you want, right? Because you're staying in that mental, energetic place of living in joy, which is Source, which is God, right? And that part's really interesting because if you grew up religious, you don't think of God as this joyous, like being, right? I'm laughing at myself for saying it that way because, again, in a lot of modern religion, God is such a fearful entity, right? It's like such a, oh my God, right? The wrath of God and the punishment of God. A lot of religious people will argue with that line, be like, no, but we're always taught he's the most merciful, and his mercy is way greater than his wrath, and his love is way greater than his wrath. And that's beautiful. Those are beautiful concepts, right? But don't kid yourself, right? Most of these religious concepts, most of us have grown up with this big sense of fear that it's a punishing God, right? And I think what I have found to be really contradictory, and what got me down this path of researching religion for myself was, how can there be so much discrepancy in God is the most loving, cares about you the most merciful, yet if you do X, Y, Z, God will throw you in the hellfire and punish you and this and that, right? There's just so much contradictory information, as if people put random things together and put it all into like one book. It's really, really interesting. Like that's why I implore you to really study the histories of this and then come to the conclusions you want to come to about these concepts. Really, right? Believe what you want to believe. I'm not here to tell you what to believe unless you're asking me to, what I think, right? That's not my job. It's for you to figure out for yourself. But I think it's really interesting how with Abraham Hicks and with this whole other school of thought, it's like the joy of God, the love of God, which I can feel is like resonant within me, which I feel is like, yes, that's the purpose, right? Then the second school of thought, it's mostly about fear. But it's very ironic, right? Because if you take a look at your life when you're more religious, or people who are, they're still doing things every day. Like everything that they want in this life is so that they can feel better. Everything, right? They want to make more money. They want to spend more time with your family and friends. They want to travel. They want a bigger house, a bigger car. They want whatever it is they want. It's all so that they can what? Feel better. Which is what the first school of thought is saying, is that you're here because you want to feel better. You want to feel as better as you can. You want to feel as much joy as you can. Somehow though, number two again, that's just something that's not supposed to, it's like everyone's doing that, but then the minute you say you're here to feel good, you're here to feel joy, everyone's triggered by that. Everyone who's religious is triggered by that. So no, we're not. This life is a test. What are you talking about? Even though everyone's trying to feel better all the time, there's this like, no, but it's a test, because we're going to be punished, right? So I think that part of the second school of thought really, really started to bother me. And the reason I'm talking about this in these manifestation videos is because it has to do with your with whether or not you'll give yourself the power to manifest. Because if you're holding yourself back and choosing to just hold on to beliefs that you know are no longer aligned with you and serving you, maybe they served a purpose, then you're going to stop yourself from actually creating the life you want, aka manifesting the life that you want. Because if you're willing to, one, realize that you're the creator or co-creator of your life, that you're here to experience more joy, freedom, expansion, then you will create the most magnificent, beautiful life for yourself and for everyone around you. You really will, right? But if you stay in the second school of thought, which in my opinion has lots of flawed premises, some beautiful things, but lots of flawed premises, and lots of ways of having you disconnect with who you really are, disconnecting with source actually, and creates a hell on earth for many of us, you're never going to be able to experience and create the life that you want. It's just not gonna happen. So manifestation, I think this video mostly, I think maybe I'll title it for like religious people or something, because I feel like this is really who it's for. People who kind of struggled with kind of reconciling the idea of religion, how they grew up, with this whole world of manifestation, because they kind of go against one another. And so I hope it helped you, one, realize that you're not alone if you're confused, give you a big papa daddy hug if you are, and two, it's okay to feel confused, but three, I hope this helps a little bit kind of shine the light on like what the differences are and what manifestation really is. So again, to basically end this video, manifestation is just another word for creation. You're always creating. And again, whether you believe God is the one creating for you, right? Or you believe you're the one creating for yourself, manifestation just means that. It's a creation. You can even believe God is manifesting for you if that makes you feel better, right? But that's all it is at the end of the day. It's not some weird out there thing. A lot of people think like, oh, manifestation is bullshit. It's like saying like living life is bullshit. Like going to work is bullshit. Taking action is bullshit. It's like, what? That's just life. What are you talking about, right? So manifestation is the same thing. So I want it to be a really fun, fascinating, cool thing. Like, ooh, I manifested this, right? I want the joy to be there, but I also want to make it a lot more accessible and not make it some weird out there thing. That's my goal with teaching about manifestation. It's like you're always manifesting. So I think, again, and to end this, the main things I want to leave you with is that your thoughts are what create your reality. Your dominant thoughts, what you choose to think on a consistent basis, is what will create your reality. Let me just think about it. Any desire you've had, when you've consistently thought about it, that's how you got it. Like the place you're living in right now, how did it happen? You thought about getting a place and it happened. Or you thought about moving somewhere enough times and then you made it happen. Somehow that is a manifestation. It started with your thought. And I'll have to do a separate video on where actions come into play, because to manifest anything you want, you don't have to take any action to manifest things you want. However, we're here as humans to take action as well. So it's a good thing to take action. it's another way of also manifesting and creating, obviously, as humans, right? So taking action is not a bad thing. But I'll talk more about when you're taking inspired action versus forced action, and then what the different results are when you're actually trying to manifest, right? Where action plays a part. But I will tell you that you don't have to take any action at all to manifest anything. You can simply just use your fucking mind, right? That's it. So again, your thoughts create your reality. If you think, the more you think as if you have that thing, that person, you are that person, you will become that. You will have that. It's just universal law. It's just the way things work. Okay. So that's kind of what I want to leave you with. And I feel like I should make a lot more content on this, because as I'm ending this video, I'm like, oh, there's so much more I want to say, right? So again, I may just kind of break it down into lessons and chapters and make it a little easier. But anyways, hope this helped. Hope that you guys learned a little bit more from someone who was very confused about what manifestation is, and someone who grew up with a very different way of thinking. And again, like I said, you know, culturally, religion will always be a part of my life. I love so many aspects of it, but there's so many things of it that don't make sense, and that's okay, that I've moved on from, that I've evolved from. And so this human experience is about evolving, it's about growing, it's about having more freedom and joy and clarity. Clarity feels so good, and knowledge feels so good as well. And so I think, again, that's one of the reasons why we're here. So again, hope it helped. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. If I end up creating the live coaching membership or Q&A, you guys will see that below. If not, hope you enjoyed the video anyway, and I'll see you guys in the next live video or post.